thrilled to be here with our new partner, Brian McDavid, with Pat Shaw, President of Blyth Academy, Adam Hurley, Principal, Blyth Academy Downsview, and Neil Doctor, who's Director of Development here. I'm going to, the evening is going to start with Neil, and he's going to give us a brief overview, and then we're going to get into a panel discussion, followed by questions and answers. And that will be followed by those of you who don't know the facility by tours, which will take you through the facility. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Neil.
Thanks, Sam. Welcome, everybody. Just want to echo Sam's sentiments and thank everybody for coming. Realize it's nice and warm outside and people have a place to be, but it's a special occasion for us to be able to do this and to have your attention and focus for what I consider to be a very important and interesting movement in the school. Slideshow briefly, and then speak with, ask some questions to our panel, and then open up an opportunity for all of you guys to ask questions, some of which are pertaining to the school as it is, and in general, any of our panel members. So with us today, as Sam pointed out, is Brian McDavid, Sam Blyth, who's our chair, Al Hurley, as well as Pat Shaw. And the school really here is to talk a lot about the blend of academics and athletics as a sports school, and how this particular school differentiates, how we offer our programs in a way that is unique and special using the Blyth program. So essentially our school, for those of you who don't know, is the largest private school in Canada. We are considered to be an international school as well, with travel programs in the summer where we travel to 35 different countries and have amazing, unique opportunities for students outside of the student-athlete world. We're also strategically aligned with sports bodies, including in Austria, the Red Bull Academy, including the CHL and the OHL, including as well on campus, Toronto FC, our partners at Wave Hockey and Connor Athletics, and also a number of different relationships in Ottawa, including the CIHA. To give you some scope of how big we really are, there's a brief overview from schools in Ontario to Italy, and as I mentioned, Austria as well as the US. So we truly are a big operation, lots and lots of infrastructure and an amazing support network for students to be successful from the time they start right through to when they graduate. Canada's sports schools, there's quite a movement in sports schools, as you may or may not know. In this particular school, in Blyth, we are not confined to this space alone, in that we have schools that complement the OHL and offer programming for OHL athletes. We have schools that offer prep programs through Connor Athletics, our prep team, the Blyth Bruins. We have schools in Ottawa that work in the AAA divisions of the Ottawa Loop and the OHF. And then we also work in a variety of other capacities in our sports schools outside of hockey, including relationship with Toronto FC, and also baseball and lacrosse and other sports that we try to integrate and provide opportunities for student athletes to get skill development outside of their teams. One thing I think is very strong and worth noting is the fact that our school, being as big as it is, have to deal with many students graduating, not just student athletes. So our guidance piece is what I would consider our strongest component for student athletes looking to move on. Having a network of guidance staff working in a variety of schools in a variety of locations gives us reach and gives us an opportunity to speak on behalf of students, not just confined to what our school knows, but in fact to our global reach. Part of what we do in our sports schools is also address the whole athlete. So from paramedical services like physio, chiro, massage, to strength and conditioning, to skill development, and also having our own on-staff guidance counselors to try to address all areas of student-athlete development. The idea of Blyth is to keep things small and personal, experiential, having an opportunity to build relationships not just with our teachers, but with our coaches, keeping classroom sizes very small, in the neighborhood of 8 to 12 students per class, and keeping the student learning meaningful and engaging. Some examples of places that people have been. For 30 years, Blyth has been involved in travel and education. There's a big list, and that doesn't cover all of it. It's an amazing thing after you see a school emerge for so long, and people go to so many different places and have so much history. It's impossible to summarize in a brief slide, but I think this gives a pretty good impression of where we've been. Some notable achievements, just give you a cross-section from Mariette Clyde to Julia Chandler in Team Canada, and also Garrett Morgan, Luke Hoover, just players from a variety of different sports backgrounds, doing well with us, using our school as an opportunity to get flexibility, work through their work, and be given assignments in a flexible manner that will allow them to be successful as a student and also as an athlete. Naturally, here at Downsview Park, this is quite a unique offering in the sense that we've got in the endway of our hall 4 indoor turf playing fields. We've got our own gym. We've got the GTHL, the Toronto FC. We have a rock climbing wall, rock climbing facility. We've got essentially everything at your fingertips here. So as far as experiential opportunities in athletics, I don't think there are very many schools that can offer what we have here. So that concludes the presentation. I'm going to just open this up now to a few questions that we've got for both Brian McDavid and for Sam Blyth and Adam Blyth. Starting with you, Brian, just like to ask you a little bit about your role within Blyth and give us some background.
So I was fortunate to meet Sam probably about a year ago, I guess. And about 3 or 4 months ago, Sam approached me about becoming part of, once the transition to Blyth Academy Downsview Park was complete, he asked me to be part of the board of directors of the school. And I was shocked at first, and then I was obviously very proud and very humbled to be asked. My background specifically, I guess most people know who my son is. My son is Connor. And I have a long background of playing hockey. I played minor hockey in the GTA and played Tier 2 hockey and coached minor hockey for many years. So Sam asked me to become involved from a board of directors perspective, specifically with the intent to provide some guidance as it relates to the hockey program here at the school.
Okay, so you alluded to that you are apparently quite a successful young student athlete. Oh, there's another son who's also an athlete. And the interesting piece is that, and the question I've got is that he was able to win the Scholastic Player of the Year twice. He was extremely successful as a student, extremely successful as an athlete, and you can just maybe detail a little bit about his drive to perform both in the classroom and on this. Yeah, so Connor's one of those unique kids where he's very driven in anything that he does. He has a bit of a perfectionist personality, which I'm not so sure that that's necessarily a great thing as you get a little bit older, because it can get in the way sometimes. We've had to sort of help him through that a little bit. But we never really had to push him, as it relates to academics. He's self-motivated and self-driven. But the one thing I can tell you that we always told him as it relates to school and hockey, especially when we made the decision to have him come to this campus, was that playing hockey is a privilege. It's not a right. And that you needed to go to school, and you need to do well in school as well. In fact, that was the theme that we echoed throughout his entire school life. In fact, when he went to play hockey in the OHL for the Erie Otters, I said the exact same thing to him: you're not going down there just to play hockey. You're going down there to be a student and to be an athlete and to be a kid. And part of that includes going to school. And I probably threatened him a couple of times and told him that if he didn't go to school, I was going to come down and yank him out of there, and the whole hockey thing was over with. But I think he kind of called my bluff once or twice, so I'm not sure. But, I did mean it for a little bit. If you could just tell us, after you attended this school, this location, what do you find differentiated a sports school from a conventional public school or other preparatory schools present?
Yeah, I think there's a big difference. So let's talk about a regular sort of high school where, you know, you go to gym and they run around the gym, they play basketball and do all those sorts of things. But for somebody like Connor who's very passionate about playing hockey, for him, that was wasted time. He wanted to play hockey. And it was tremendous for me to be able to see him every day get up and be excited about going to school every day because he knew he was going to go on the ice. And that was the thing that really motivated him. He loved to play more than anything else, and so to go to school and be able to go on the ice and work on his game, which is, he was always doing that, that was a tremendous thing for him. But I will tell you, that's only part of the equation from my perspective. You know, if you think about Blyth, and you know, you alluded to the long history with Blyth and its academic accomplishments, and the largest, you know, private school educator in the country, the combination of that plus the on-ice training that the kids are going to get here, to me, is just an incredibly powerful tool. But the other thing is probably not so much, you know, is understood unless you've gone through it, is you're being immersed in a culture that kids get immersed in here, where, you know, they see the value of hard work, and, you know, so especially if they're a little bit younger, they see the older kids, you know, working in the gym every day. They're not only on the ice every day, but they're in the gym. They're, you know, they're taking care of themselves in terms of, you know, what they eat. And so for a young person to see that and understand the value of that, and to realize that the value of that hard work and the preparation that they put into their game, and when they see that translate to success, that's just a tremendous thing for somebody at that age to learn. And frankly, I think that's one of the things that really often gets missed. You know, we talk about all the great stuff about, you know, in the classroom and on the ice, but there's another benefit to being, you know, walking through the hallway and things that happen off the ice as well, that really, I think, resonate and translate to helping, you know, those student athletes really be the best they can be.
Yeah, I want to just build on that. I have a question about, so you talked a lot about the culture of the school and the drive, but how does that translate into the classroom, or does it? You see that?
I think it does. Again, if I speak specifically about, you know, my own son, you know, he's self-motivated. You know, he wanted to be the best wherever he could be, and whether that was going to school, he wanted to get an A or an A plus. In fact, I'll tell you a fun story. So the report cards just right into the bottom. They had all those little grades for learning skills, and E's for excellent, and what's the one right below? It was a G. He got one G, and the rest of them were E's, and he was having a bad day. He was having a meltdown. Like, that's pretty good. He was, I wanted an E. But that's just his personality, and that's just who he was.
All right. So it's been some time since you've been here, and I know that Downsview Park, for many of you, is probably a place that you're now very familiar with, but maybe you can describe some of the changes, and I think if you view them as impactful changes from when Connor was here to now, and including, you know, rinks and everything else.
Well, I mean, the first thing is the rink. The rink is right there. Instead of having to take a bus over to Chester, I mean, the rink, you can walk to the rink. I mean, that's just you know, again, I know a little bit about some of the, you know, the sports-specific training schools around the country, and there's no place that has the facilities that are offered here, with the rink being, you know, a 20-second walk away. I mean, that's first and foremost. The other big change, clearly, and we've talked about it, is the switch from academics, you know, with Blyth now being you know, the academic provider here. That to me, to be 100% candid, you know, when my wife and I were making the decision to have Connor come to the school that existed before Blyth was here, we struggled a little bit because we weren't certain about the academic piece to it. We took a bit of a leap of faith, and, you know, thankfully, you know, Neil was here then. You know, it worked out very well for Connor. But there's no leap of faith required now with the power of the Blyth name, and, you know, and the infrastructure that you spoke about earlier. To me, it's just a no-brainer.
This is a question that other people ask me to ask you.
Okay.
I gotta do it.
Okay.
So what do you think, what made Connor what he was? What's the secret?
Yeah, so I get asked that a lot, as you might imagine. So if we talk about, there's two pieces. We'll separate the on-ice piece, and I'll talk about that in a second. We'll talk about the offense piece. So from the time he was 4 years old, you could tell he was wired a little bit differently. He had this drive to be the best of whatever he did. You know, it translated to playing mini sticks with his older brother and I. If he didn't win, he'd like freak out, and that was just his personality. So he's just wired a little bit differently. Two gifts really stand out though. I'll say one of them we sort of supported, but also the two gifts. One of them was very passionate about playing hockey. He loved to play the game. He would spend hours and hours and hours in our driveway doing drills, what people would think were drills, but he was having fun. And I'd be out there with him, and his older brother would be out there, and we'd get tired and he'd stay out. And that was just the passion for the game was there. The other piece then is, if you talk about translation to on ice, his hockey IQ is probably a little bit different than the average player. You can see that when he was very young. So there's no question that helps translate to today as well. But then the third thing I think that really helped get him to where he was today was, my wife and I are going to get a bit of a pat on the back here, and that is related to we gave him opportunities to pursue his dream. One of them was to come to a place like this, and that was, in my mind, critical. So in addition to this, we go to all those spring hockey tournaments, and he played as much as he wanted. We let him sort of set the path, and he told us this is what he wanted to do, and we sort of allowed that to happen as well. So there's a combination of factors that went into all of that.
Thank you. I'm going to turn the discussion over to you, Sam and Adam. So starting with you, Sam, can you just provide us for a little bit of background on what your vision is with Blyth Academy, some background about Blyth in general?
For the schools generally, we wanted to provide an environment where kids felt engaged in their school. And by engaging them and providing individuated teaching, that means a teacher teaching directly to the student, not to a classroom, but directly to the student, to transform the educational experience for the elementary and high school student. We do it in classes that average in size less than 8, in schools that are designed to be small, so that people feel like they're taken care of and they are taken care of. And at the end of it, we just see academic results, which are astonishing. It used to be astonishing to us, we're used to it, but are astonishing to parents. Because when their kids do get engaged, they reach their potential.
Thank you. Adam, being principal at Blyth, you probably had a chance to see schools from a variety of different lenses. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the measure of an excellent academic program. And in your view, how does Blyth achieve this?
I think Sam touched on this a little bit when you discussed how we put a large emphasis on experiential learning as well as being very engaging in our delivery. So I think that really sets us apart from some of the other traditional public schools or private schools. And as you referred to earlier, the infrastructure that's in place to ensure that the academics are being carried out thoroughly and are very challenging are amazing. The whole head office that focuses on delivering a stellar curriculum and really going above and beyond the Ontario curriculum, continuing to challenge students who might be excelling at their grade level. So I think that's something that we really pride ourselves on with Blyth, and that will really benefit each student that comes in.
Sam, you've done impressive things with Blyth. You've moved internationally. You've got a lot of schools and a lot of locations. Why here?
Well, it's just a fantastic facility, frankly. We're not only in the heart of Toronto, but we're co-located with just great facilities. And in another year, 18 months, the subway is going to run in here as well, which is going to increase access and make Condensed Park, I think, really the best athletic facility in the east side of the Rockies. So it was an obvious thing for us to do. The classrooms are great. There's room for us to grow in here. We have a long-term arrangement in here. Downsview Park is owned essentially by the federal government. And we have a long-term lease in here, so we are going to be here for a long, long time. And with the intent of building the state-of-the-art school for student athletes in Canada.
And to touch on that, you talked about the idea of this being a state-of-the-art facility, but you've got academies in Ontario, United States, Europe, Asia. Are there different focuses for all the schools, or
Well, this one is distinct. We have other schools that have athletic programs, and we have prep teams running out of them. But this is a school for athletes, student athletes, and everything here is constructed around these student athletes. We are building a school right now in Singapore, which will cater to Singaporeans who are looking to go to university in Canada. We have a school opening in Italy, which will provide a cultural experience for Canadians who want to live in Italy. The thing about this school here is that it is tailor-made really for you, and everything that an athlete would want. And it also, though, is a serious academic institution. It's worth just talking about that for a second, because we believe that athletes are better athletes if they're good students and successful in the classroom. We have seen this in the last 2 years. We've had both the Memorial Cup winners in the last 2 years in Blyth, Joshua Generals, and this year the London Knights. And yesterday we met with the Hunters who won the London Knights, and they said to us, and this is a team that set a record in winning the last 17 games of the season in a row. They said this year was the best year academically we've ever had with the London Knights. And it's not a coincidence. Kids who are good at school excel in athletics, and vice versa. If a student is comfortable, if they are feeling confident about what's happening to them in the classroom, they take that onto the ice, onto the court, into their field of competition. And what happens to them as a team when they are in class together, they're learning together, they're doing homework together, they take that with them as well. And without boasting, it's really not wanting to pat ourselves in the back. This year, the OHL had 8 awards in their awards dinner for the MVP and for the best goaltender, for the best community service, the best student. Blyth students won 5 of those 8 OHL awards. So we are having students, including the most valuable player, Martin. So we are having students at our schools who are taking success into their field of play.
Thank you. Adam, tell us what a sports school looks like, particularly as we go forward. Some people have already been here. So how is this all going to play out? How does it work?
So one of the main things that we identified that would benefit the student athlete is the term approach. And the term approach has our year broken down into 4 separate terms instead of how we previously had 2 semesters and a few year-long courses. So those that aren't too familiar with this approach, you take 2 academic courses for 10 weeks at a time. Following those 10 weeks, you write your final exams, and then you go on to the next 2 courses. We see a huge benefit in doing this for the student athlete because of the fact that they're so busy outside of school that they only have to focus on 2 different courses. It is done in a shorter calendar time, but it does help to teach self-regulation, time management, and things along those lines. So that is one benefit to our sports academy. As well, in regards to the actual sport component, from 8:30 to 9:30 each morning, the students who are here for the athletic program, they engage in the sports-specific training for an hour each day. So that adds 4 extra hours of on-ice or on-field time, as well as integrated throughout the day. We run a strength and conditioning program. So each day, the students are involved in an hour of strength and conditioning also. So having all of that, the academic and athletics integrated into the school day, really takes the burden off of parents and really helps teach the students necessary life skills to succeed.
Sam, you talked about the OHL and the success stories with the 8 awards, but in fact, there were some notable student athletes from Blyth that were drafted recently in the NHL, many in the 1st and 2nd round. Matthew Chuck, Ole Joe Levy, Alexander Nylander, Michael McLeod, Max Jones. So that's an impressive roster. That's, I think, unheard of for a school to produce 5 or 6 1st and 2nd round NHL drafts. Why are these players coming out of these programs or gravitating towards these programs?
I think that, if you put good players and good students together, great things happen. And I think these students actually, if you look at where they were projected to be drafted a year or two ago, most of them were on this list. They've made great progress in the last year or two. And I think they've been very well coached from a hockey perspective. They've been on the London Mississauga team, which is not obviously as strong, but they've been well coached. And I think they've been well taught. We've also, a year ago, we had the first pick overall, Aaron Ekblad. It was an interesting story. 2 years ago now, last year. Last year. That's right. And he came out of our school in Barrie. He went first overall. He won the Calder Trophy, and then he enrolled in Harvard. And he may be the only NHLer who is going to Harvard right now. And he told me that he got interested in doing that because of his time in life. Damian Bourne, who won the top Scholastic Player of the Year in the OHL this year, wrote us a note saying he learned the skills to be both a student and athlete at Blyth. That's where it came from. So, in my own personal history, I went to university in England. I went to Cambridge, and I was an athlete at Cambridge. I played rugby and I played basketball, and I had to perform in the classroom. And we didn't get any special dispensation. We had kids in our rugby who were having to go and write exams and went and played for England the next day. We didn't get any special treatment. So I was used to doing both these things at once, and I saw that it could happen. And then even the professional athlete today, and I was talking to Aaron Ekblad about this, they're limited outside of hockey that you know is better than I would, Brian, but professional hockey players today, they have their game days, but on their practice days, they're limited to the number of hours that they can actually spend practicing. And they know, and there is time for them to carry on with their education if they're well organized. So it is possible, and if they do both, and they get really well educated on the way, they're not only going to be great hockey players, but they may end up running the NHL. And we would personally love to see that. I'd like to see the name do that. So it would be great.
Adam, is BDP, Blyth Academy Park, is BDP a space only for athletes, or do you envision it, or is it an available space for people who just enjoy sport? Like, how exclusive is this place?
So, this took a lot of discussion and deliberation at the beginning, but we did come up with 3 different programs that we really offer here. So first and foremost, we do focus on the student athlete training and sport-specific training, whether it be hockey, soccer, baseball, or lacrosse. However, we do find, we have had some feedback about the need for a more recreational program as well. So that's where we implemented the Sports Plus program. So in this program, you're not necessarily training towards a specific sport, but you may be competing in some recreational activities, as well as doing some strength and conditioning here. Having said that, we do open up to just the academic, so that is also another option that we have to offer. That option also is available for students. We had one that just registered. She's a grade 5 student who plays national level tennis. So she trains in the morning with her tennis club, and then comes and joins us at 10 o'clock for the academic component. So we do find the need for all 3. However, we do have a heavy focus on the sport-specific training.
Thank you. Sam, last question. Are there plans to change this space at all? Are there improvements you see going on here? What in September do you think will this place look like?
Well, Neil's asked me if he can have a golf cart so he can do tours, and I think we'll find a way to say no to that. We are in the midst of, we are planning and we'll be renovating part of our training facility here grade A practice court within our own facilities here. And that will be a great place for kids who want to, what kind of activities, Neil? We'll be doing basketball there right now, so we can volleyball. And that'll add, I think, a great new dimension here. We're going to be doing more work with the Toronto Football Clubs, TFC, who are co-located with us here. And I think you'll see some great soccer players in here next year. I should say that enrollment has been great. The level of interest has been fantastic. We're seeing great students, great athletes, and we're very optimistic that when we open here in September, we're not only going to have a full school, but some really great kids and families. So, I think the future looks good, and it, frankly, is better than we could have imagined 3 months ago. Thank you.
Well, at this point, I'd like to open up questions to the audience. I know that some of you stand up. If you want to stand up, I know it's not that impressive, but hopefully you can see me in the back. I know that some of you have talked to me on the phone. You want to ask a few things. So by all means, this is a great opportunity for you to ask questions that you may have. Those who are interested, just curious about some of the Blyth stuff that we're doing, or of Brian McDavid, we're all here able to answer some questions. I should also say that we have Lucky DeGrazia here, who's our head of hockey. So he's also able to answer some of the curriculum-related questions for hockey, if you've got them. And so I thought I would just ask someone to raise their hand if they've got a question, and then go ahead.
So I had a question for Brian as a parent. From what you said about Connor, we already, I think, all knew about his athletic skill. But what I've heard tonight is that he's very successful academically. And I think I can infer from what you said that could be a very difficult balance to strike. So I'm wondering, from your point of view as a parent, how you see life as mitigating that balance for children who are high achievers in their sport and also care deeply about their academics.
So I think, so first of all, I mean, the kids, when they come to school here, rather than go to a gym class, they go to their sports-specific training. So they get that covered right away. The academic piece, I think, as Adam talked about with the 2 courses per semester over the course of 4 semesters, and really be able to narrow their focus is really helpful. For the kids. I can speak specifically about Connor, who was here from grade 7 to 9. He had a pretty intense, sort of hockey workload. From he was playing in the GTHL, he was playing for the Marlies, and they practiced 2 nights a week. They played 2 or 3 nights a week, generally 2 nights a week. So there was a lot attached to that. But frankly, the way the academic program is set up lends itself to working in conjunction with their desire to pursue their passion, which is to play. Basically, Connor's place was to play hockey, but I mean, that would apply to any other sport as well. So I think the way it's set up, and frankly, part of that was also our own family as well. Like, we were very focused on school. And I can tell you that my older boy just graduated from Ivy Business School last week, which is probably the top business school in the country. And so there's been in our house, there's been a focus on education as well, and trying to balance the both. And frankly, we left it to the kids to try and figure out how to do both. And if one had to give, then not the academics, but the athletics was going to give. And it's funny, kids find a way to make that work as well. If they understand the priorities, they understand that that's your objective. They find a way to make things work for themselves. But yeah, again, you have to. I think the way the school set up really lends itself to that very effectively.
The other thing you'll get through Blyth in our schools is that we operate a very significant, very large summer school. So if your child is deeply involved in, say, hockey playoffs in spring, they can back off their academic program. They can take a lighter load. In July or August, they can pick up another course. I think Connor did the same thing.
I think you did once, yes.
And we have an online school with 60+ courses. So you can, if you're traveling, if you're a bus, if you're playing in an international tournament, you can carry on with your academic work through our online school. So you have a lot of different resources you can draw on through Blyth, which are not just specific to this facility here.
You know, and I'll just add one other comment to that, just sort of adding to that again. The other thing about, you know, an institution like Blyth, and specifically this campus, the teachers come in knowing that that's part of the expectation from them as well. And I know, you know, from other parents who's, whether, in fact, this extended to when Connor was playing in the OHL, you know, we actually had a family there who's, both of them were parents, and they would talk about how the regular school system didn't really foster that sort of harmony between athletics and academics. Whereas here it does. Like, I'll give you just another example. So, Marley night, home night is Friday night. They played every Friday night at home. And, you know, when you eat is an important, you know, contribution to how you perform. So the teachers would allow, you know, the kids, and Connor in particular, but I think it was generally for everybody, they'd allow them to eat, you know, during class, because that was the right time, the optimum time for them to nourish themselves so they could be prepared to play. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is, in addition to all, you know, the structure of the school, I think, you know, the personnel in the school understand that it's trying to work in harmony with it as well, and not try and, you know, be in conflict, which, again, we saw that, you know, from other people that, you know, there was no flexibility, you know, in the regular school system for understanding that, oh yeah, you're playing in a tournament on Friday and I have a test on Friday, maybe I can do the test on Thursday. No, you have to be here to do the test on Friday to get 0. I mean, there's enough stress in kids' lives without having to worry about, you know, somebody getting a 0 because some teacher is not, you know, not being flexible. So I think that's just another benefit that maybe is not as much spoken or understood, but when you go through it, you sort of see that. Anyway.
Right here.
I have a question for you, Brian. I have 3 boys that are all different. I have, you know, some are highly motivated, some are not motivated.
Right.
I wonder if you have any secrets to how to motivate children, and what you managed to do to get your boys to be where they are. Stop flashing. I know my older boy.
You know, I don't know if it's a secret. You know, we were always pretty candid with our kids. You know, it's funny, we used to use, me particularly used to use the time, you know, driving to and from the rink to talk to them about things that were going on in their lives. And you know, frankly, the things that I would talk to them about, you know, the value of hard work. And actually, I'm just going to take a little divergence here. One of the things my older boy tells me all the time that he learned from a very young age, and where he learned it, I'm hopeful, is from, you know, us at home, was the value of hard work. And the fact that, you know, hard work leads to success. It's not a fluke. You know, you just ask anybody who's successful. It's generally, you know, there's a little bit of luck, but the luck is the result of the hard work put into it. So, you know, I don't know. I'll carry on with the story. So the conversations I have with both of the boys all the time is be genuine, sincere, and be humble, and listen more than you talk. And those are just lessons that I would impart on them when they were very young. And fortunately, I said it enough times and pounded it into their heads that they seemed to get it and understood that. You know, whether that helped motivate them or not, I don't know. But that was just our sort of family style, I guess.
2 questions. The first one, do you monitor your enrollment levels or your technical levels at the university? And then the other question is, on the athletic side, what do you do overall in terms of maintaining the athletic prowess across the board with your athletic program?
So Sam, maybe you can answer the first part, and then Adam.
Yeah, we have really 3 measures that are important on the post-secondary and university acceptances. First is the percentage of students that got into colleges and universities, which this year Blythe-wide was 98%. Into their first choice, 95%. And maybe as importantly, the success rate, the longevity of those students in their colleges and universities. It is a well-kept secret. The dropout rates in Ontario are as high as 40% in first year alone. So one of the big hurdles that you have as families, I felt this, is not only getting your child into university, but make sure they stay. And we have data from the universities themselves, it shows that we're in the top 25 percentile of retention rates. And if I was to point at factors as to why that works, with athletes, I think they go to university with discipline, because they get disciplines from their sport, and they do the work generally. And we find that they do their work when they're in school, if they're properly instructed. And I think just the maturity of being in classes, very small classes, where they can't get away with anything. There's a very high degree of accountability in our classes, and you know, there's no back seat in the class of 7 or 8. You haven't done your work, everybody knows, and we don't give 90% to everybody just because we want to be nice. You have to earn your grades, and so when students graduate, they are ready for university.
Do you know what number of weeks in September as far as the class sizes?
Our average class size, I think we're headed to an average class size here of about 8. It'll be, some classes will be smaller, some will be larger, but overall, throughout Blyth, the average class size is 7. We have 800 teachers in our system to support the small class size. I should say also that we're religious about evaluating teachers. And those of you who are running businesses and who do regular reviews and evaluations of your staff, your employees, we do it. And we hire based on it. We continue to keep people based on their performance. So we have a performance culture in here, which is pretty high, is very high. And to add to your question, what's the best way to get performance out of underperforming children? Put them into a high performance environment. It's high performing not just their teachers, but their peers. If their peers are all working and they're all there, they'll respond. We'll be fine.
For the athletic part, can you just repeat what?
Just, I'm curious as to how you maintain or how much emphasis you put on terms of maintaining the prowess of your athletics right across the board.
The commitment or the level of play?
Just overall, just the overall performance of your athletics right across the board with everything that you're offering. Like, how do you juggle that? And I think that's probably outside of the Blyth Academy to understand. So how do you monitor that?
You want to?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So one of the changes that you'll notice coming since Blyth came in is we decided to narrow down our focus for our athletic programs. We found that juggling 7 or 8 different sports, we weren't able to do justice in each of them and really make sure that the rigors were in place. So next year we have decided to narrow down to 4 sports, hockey, soccer, baseball, and lacrosse. And we find that this will allow us to really gear in and focus on making those programs elite.
Other questions? You got one? This is a stretch. There you go.
Academic for Mr. Blyth. This year there were 2 semesters. Next year you're going into 4 semesters. I know, I guess the material is going to be more concentrated. And what about if a child is missing a week from illness or going into a tournament? Or how do they catch up because the information will be much more than spread into 4 months?
I don't think everybody heard the question.
Yeah.
So the question is, given the condensed schedule of having 4 terms rather than 2 semesters, if a child is gone for a period of time, how does the school accommodate for them missing the volume of material because it is concentrated?
Well, there's 2 or 3 ways we do it. The first is that, you know, if the whole class is going away for a tournament, which sometimes is the case, we will simply do that learning the next week. If a single child is going, then they would get support. They would get material to do while they're traveling, and they'd be brought back in and tutored back up to speed. I think the key to it, and Brian mentioned this, is just the flexibility. We don't have students do exams that they don't have time to prepare for because of their athletic events. We constantly take pressure off students in terms of their timetable in order to give them the best chance of success. I can't tell you the impact though, and the block teaching, it's called block teaching, the 2 courses per term, and it is essentially, it's a high school thing we do. The elementary is more traditional. But one of the 2 or 3 things it does, one is that your learning material you're going to be tested on 10 weeks later, not the whole year later. You don't have to go back and revise it. It makes a big difference. 2, organizationally, a lot of kids have trouble juggling 5 or 6 or 7 homework assignments at home, and they throw up their hands and say, you can't go. They don't have that. Our kids do a lot of homework in school because they're organized that way. So, you know, I think we're in a class of 7 or 8. The teacher has the ability to deal with the individual. It's just so, you can't do it when you've got 32 kids. You got to have one rule. Everybody's got to do their work, and it all has to be on time. With 7, we don't have to do that.
Can my experience just running a school with semesters versus terms, an observation I made with Blyth is that in the event that someone is absent for a period of time, the build out of 3 periods a day, we're only committed to 2 of them for in-class work, gives you a period a day for teachers who are aware of circumstances coming. And that is the responsibility of the student and the parents, to be able to remediate or work ahead. And that, I think, is where this differentiates big time. You've got that chunk in a day you can do work.
And homework.
Yeah.
What about after, like, those students are in class in a small group, group of them, but after, do they get extra help, extracurricular? Is there a chance for tutoring if they need it, stuff like that? For the academic stuff?
Sure. Go on to that.
So in regards to that, we do have the before school, as I said, sports specific training, and the after school strength and conditioning. So those are times where we try to teach the students self-regulation. So if they realize that either they're behind on something or you know, they need some extra help understanding some concepts, they can utilize that time to come and to get some extra help. Also, what Neil brought up, for the high school students, they have 1 period throughout the day where they'll be in the gym for a component of it, but they'll also have an hour in an academic study hall. So that will provide the students with some time to get their homework done, as well as some time to get some extra homework.
I think it kind of models the idea of you give them a bit of rope, but do you reel them in sometimes, because although you provide all these gaps in the day to do work and so on, there also has to be a relationship built between teachers and students. So that's the only way coaches are successful with teams, teachers are successful with students, is understanding, you know, the ebbs and flows of student work ethic and what's going on in their lives, and be able to reel them in when they need that support, and not asking, but telling them it's a time to refocus and come into class, get in the gym, whatever the case may be. And it can't just be one way. Every student needs to be addressed differently. So the better the relationship, the more you get out of each student. You demand things, if you're impersonal, you don't have a relationship built, it's really hard no matter what you build in your school. And I think once the advantage of that small group is that as you connect, you know what buttons to push for each student to get the most out of it, which is all, you know, we as parents, we want to see our students achieve their potential. Yep.
I have a question for Mr. Blyth himself. Where exactly did you get the idea to start the school? And in addition to that, where was the first branch in the numerous branches that you possess today? Where was the first branch originally started geographically?
Our first class was 12 kids in Yorkville, in a 3rd floor, and to walk up 3 flights to get to it. And it was really a result of parents coming to us and saying they've been sending their students on our international programs. And we run the largest, we're the largest provider of international education to high school Canadians. And these kids have done these programs and love them. They had class sizes that were very small, very engaged, they individuated teaching. The parents came to us and said, you should do this here. And I was kind of reluctant to do it. but I got persuaded, and we took in 12 kids, and the next year we had 25, and the year after that we had 50, and now there's 6,500 in the system. So it's really grown virally based on kids and parents feeling it was a great education. And where did I get the idea? Yeah, it was from them. Nothing to do with me at all.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Shaw.
You know, I feel that something is missing in terms of the scale of the school. Discussions how that blends strength and support program offering. I'm wondering how you talk about your experience with cross-campus events and how tying Downsview Park into the greater network of schools moves our help.
That's a great point, Pat. So what Blyth did, we really like to get involved in extracurricular activities. And what we like to do is engage both campus-wide but also Blyth-wide. So this year we've had a few Blyth-wide events, even since we became Blyth in March. We went to the Burlington campus for a Blyth-wide beach volleyball tournament. The principal there, Ian, he doesn't like when I say it, but we brought home the trophy. So it was pretty exciting, one of our first wins here. We also hosted an event for the Invictus Games where we invited grades 5 to 9 students from all the other campuses to come here for a presentation on the Invictus Games, a nice barbecue, as well as a tri-sport tournament. So we try to engage the students as much as we can Blyth-wide. You know, in addition to the athletic extracurriculars, we like to do a lot of academic everything. So this year, just in the second half of the year, we did a Blyth-wide Science Center trip, a Blyth-wide Second City trip for the students that learn in science. And just when we try to engage in all these extracurriculars, it really helps us teach with experiential learning. We find it really makes a difference in the lives of these students.
I can speak about the prom and things like that. I mean, that was a challenge with small schools. Is how do you make events big and fun and successful, safe, understanding the people you're surrounded with. But you know, Blyth is host a pretty unbelievable prom, and those moments are huge. And although some of the students are somewhat strangers, you get connected through these events over the years, and actually it's huge. You know, and it is a proper big widespread event, and it's exciting because you know some people you don't. You know, and it's an opportunity to network in the context of a similarly minded group that's larger than where you are in your school in the immediate, you know, as you grow up. So I think that part's very big, relatively speaking, to other small schools, because Blyth, in fact, is quite large on the whole. So I think what we're going to do now, and there's no more questions, is we're just going to close out the conversation. And I know some of you have asked for some tours, some opportunities to speak one-on-one with some of the people here, maybe with each other. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to our panel for coming. Really appreciate it. And we hope to continue the conversation with lots of you as the years go on. And we really appreciate your time and commitment to come and see. Thank you. Anybody would like a tour, feel free to meet with me. Don't steal my laptop.